Cosplay Weapons 102 starts now. Reddit saved the day on this power axe, and I'm diving in next on Tina Tries. Today's project is the original Black Power Rangers power axe from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This axe is level 2 for cosplay weapon making. This one is definitely not a simple print and assemble like the Star-Lord blasters that I did back in episode 21. This one takes a bit of paint, a lot of super glue, and even more patience. This paid file is by Mr. Campbell Prints and can be found on cults3d.com. This was printed on an H2D and an X1 carbon. I used black PETG as well as black and yellow PLA. This took 70 hours to print and just under 2 kilograms of filament. This axe is huge. For this build, I also used automotive spray paint, plastic wood filler, magnets, some sandpaper, and a lot of super glue. As usual, everything will be linked in the description below. Let's check out the build. Here are the printed pieces. First up, I started by sanding the rough edges of the axe blade. Since I could see the infill pattern on the top of the axe head, I decided to fill it in with plastic wood filler. Once that had dried, I began the sanding process. After sanding down the wood filler, I glued the blade to the axe handle. For this part, I used miter apple glue with the activator spray because I was going to spray paint over any streaks that might have been left from the glue. Then I glued together the end of the blaster so that I could spray it silver. Next, I glued the slider pieces together. Attaching all of these pieces together at this point was important in order to keep the colors consistent after spray painting. Then it was time for spray painting. And more sanding. And more spray painting. There were several rounds before I was happy with the result. All right, so I am ready to start assembling the power axe. First, I'm going to paint the mastodons gold. So let's start there. I am going to be using the Army Painter War Paints, and I'm going to use bright gold for the mastodons. I ended up doing 3 coats of gold paint on each of the mastodons. There we have our golden mastodons. Next, I am going to put the magnets into this part of the axe that slides up and down. So they're going to attach here, and then you can slide it down and attach it to the bottom here, like so. That way it transforms from an axe to a shooter. So I am going to glue the magnets in here. These are going to be size 6. So these are 6 by 2 millimeter magnets. And I'm going to start by putting them into this piece first, and then I'll figure out the polarity when I put the magnets in the other pieces. And for this axe, I am just going to be using regular old super glue. That one's a little bit of a tight snug, but it's in there. All right, now I'm going to do the 2 on this side. And there we have the top 2. I recently had a discussion on Reddit about super glue leaving marks on prints. A lot of people suggested using some sort of oil like WD-40 or even olive oil to get rid of these white marks that are left behind by super glue on plastic. So I think I'm gonna try that out and see how well that works. So I have a little bit of olive oil here in this cup, and I'm just gonna use a Q-tip and see if I can get this to disappear. Very cool, that does work really well. So if you have marks on your print from super glue, olive oil will clean it right up. That's really cool. So I am going to start putting magnets on this part that will turn the axe into a blaster. So I want these to match up. I'm going to figure out my polarity here. There we go. And I am going to glue them in on this side. So I'm going to slide these off, and the part that's facing down, I want to be facing up on this part. Oh, of course I dropped it. Slide it off and drop it in. I think this one is going to be a tight fit again, so I'm just going to use the back end of my wire cutters here to jam it in there. There we go. I'm gonna let those dry before I test it out. And we're gonna do the same thing here. So you wanna make sure that you have this angle lined up correctly. So the top one is gonna go here. And there we have our magnets in the axe head. I'm not gonna test them out yet because I want them to be dry before, or they will just pull right out of the axe head, which would not be a good thing. Let's test out our connection here. Hopefully these are strong enough. I'm not convinced. Okay. The magnets are strong enough. I stand corrected. For this part, I am not convinced about the axe head though. Wow, okay. Again, I stand corrected. Very cool. So those magnets are strong enough to hold the pieces together. That's awesome. I was afraid I was gonna have to drill some holes in here and add some more magnets, but this works out really well. So our handle, the shortest piece goes on the bottom, the medium piece goes in the middle, and the longest piece goes on the top. Now these are going to connect using these connector pieces that I printed out. I printed this entire axe, all of the black pieces are PETG. I wanted these to be super strong, just in case somebody decides to swing this axe around. If it's PLA and the joints holding everything together are made of PLA, it's going to break after repeated use. And I don't want that to happen. So this whole thing in black, all these black pieces are printed in PETG to give them extra strength. I am still going to glue these together though. They do fit together snugly and you don't have to glue all of this stuff together, but I am going to do that just to make sure that it does not come apart. And I'm just gonna wipe away any excess that is sticking out around the edges here. That way when I put the handle all together, it will stay flush. So those are together. I'm going to let that dry. Next, let's glue our mastodons into the silver circles here. And there we have one mastodon. And there is our second mastodon. Next, let's put the trigger on the inside of the axe here. So this goes in with the bigger part pointing out. So it's gonna go in like this. And I'm just gonna hold that in place for a couple seconds so that it sets. And there we have the trigger. All right, next up, let's glue the blade onto our axe. So this sets on here like so, and I am gonna have to apply a lot of pressure to get this to stay in place, but let's see how it goes. Okay, so my alignment is good, and I am just gonna really hold this in place for a while until it is stuck. I think just to make sure that this stays down, I am going to use some painter's tape and tape this together for a while until it's set, and then I don't have to hold it. Painter's tape is great because it's not going to take the spray paint off of the PETG, and it will hold tight, but not so tight that I won't be able to get it off. Next up, we are going to put this finial right on top here. And that just sets right in there, and hold it down for a couple of seconds while it dries. And there we have our finial. Next up, we are going to glue our mastodons on here. You want the tusk to be on the top when you glue it down. So make sure you have your orientation right, and then glue away. And there we have our first mastodon. Now for the other side. And there we have our second mastodon. Next, we are going to glue these yellow pieces onto the lower part of the axe. So these printed on the plate face down. So the yellow pieces that go on the top of the axe have this lip to them that fits on this inner edge of the axe. That means the shiny part that was on the print bed is going to be facing out. So when you're gluing the pieces onto the bottom part of the axe, you want to make sure that the part that was touching the print plate is going to be facing out. That way, these all match up once they're glued into place. And make sure that your top and bottom edge are aligned, and then just hold it in place. So there's one yellow stripe. Let's do the other side. So I noticed when I went to glue this piece on that it had printed in the same direction as this other one, which is the way it was set up in the file. If I leave it like that, it was going to be all shiny side out on the yellow pieces except for this one. So I ended up reprinting it after switching the orientation. That way, when I glue it down, it's going to be shiny side out, just like all of the other pieces, which is important because I want them all to match. Make sure that your top and bottom edges are lined up, and then hold it in place while it dries. And there we have our second yellow stripe. Next up, we are going to glue these yellow pieces onto the top part of our axe. This piece has the edge to it on the inside, so it's already aligned, so you cannot mess up. It only goes on one way. And I'm just gonna hold it for a couple of seconds until it sets. And there's one side. And there is our other side. Next up, we're going to glue the bottom part of the handle into the very end of the axe. And it appears that this is going to be a very tight fit, which is good. So I am just gonna put super glue on the bottom of this and then seat it into the end. That is a very tight fit. So there's that. This piece is going to go on the handle like this, but not quite yet. I'm gonna add the middle section on first. So I'm not gonna glue this yet because we have all of these yellow pieces that need to go in the middle. The sections between the handle seem to be a little bit tighter than the sections that don't connect to each other. So these fit perfectly around here, but this is a little bit short. So I think that I'm gonna have to glue these on first, and then I'll be able to glue the handle pieces together. I want to make sure, since these rings have a seam, I want to make sure that I keep all of my seams in the same place all the way up the axe here. So now that these are all glued down, we need to put these last ones on. Now, I am not quite sure why this one fits and this one seems to be a bit short, but that's okay because I am just going to glue these on here and then we can set the handle on and glue it down after. Then we'll have the correct spacing to fit the rings in there. So I'm gonna put glue on the handle here around the edge, and then I'll put the yellow half rings on here. Make sure my seams are lined up, and then I'm gonna hold these in place to make sure that they stick first. And I'm gonna do the same with this bit. I had a little bit of a super glue leak here, so I'm just gonna clean that up with my olive oil. All right, so I'm gonna put some super glue here and glue my handle together. So my bottom two pieces of the handle are together. Now I want to put this section on before, because if you don't, there is this piece sticking out here and you're never gonna get that on your axe. So we're gonna put this on and then we're going to glue this piece down. There we go. So now this piece can slide up and down. And last but not least, we're gonna glue the axe head on. There is a cutout in the bottom for the notch at the top of the handle here. So it is going to go on like this. Put some super glue on the end here. And let's put the top of our axe on. Hold it down while it dries. Very cool. Here is the giant power axe. This was so much more work than I was anticipating, but I really like how it turned out. And thanks to the awesome 3D printing Reddit community, there is not a single bit of super glue to be seen on the outside of this axe. Olive oil works wonders. Here are my rankings for this project. Ease of printing. This one gets a 5. The files are not the most intuitive to use, and this print was really tough. Don't try to print this axe in one piece. You will be better off if you split it into individual objects and assemble them after. You will need to adjust the orientation for some of the pieces, especially the axe head itself and this one yellow stripe, which needs to be flipped. That way the finish matches on all of your stripes. I ended up using bamboo support for PLA for some of the pieces, especially the axe head, because the supports were fusing to the pieces despite the top interface spacing being correct. The bamboo support for PLA just made it 1,000 times easier to remove. The axe head alone required 3 reprints. The first time is because the supports completely fused to the axe head here and there's no way that these were coming off. The second time, this just straight up failed on the print bed. Lots of stringing. Third time was the charm. Once I saw how this was going to print, I flipped it upside down so that the weighted parts of the axe head were on the print plate, and this made it work out much better. Ease of assembly, this gets a 6. This was not the easiest assembly. The files creator does have an online tutorial video on how to build it, which is helpful. Surprisingly, the few magnets that are embedded in this are actually strong enough to keep the slider in place, so you don't need to worry about adding extra magnets. You definitely need to use reference pictures to make sure that you're putting some of the pieces on in the right direction. Some of the pieces fit together really snugly, while others need a lot more super glue to keep them together. There were several rounds of filling, painting, sanding, filling, sanding, etc. to get that axe head as smooth as I wanted it to be, but in the end, it came together. There was also that little bit of painting to get the mastodons to be gold, but you can print those in whatever color you want. You can also print all of the silver pieces in silver PLA, but I opted to use black PLA and spray them with silver automotive paint. Silk PLA is really brittle, and I did not want those pieces breaking should somebody decide to swing this beast. That's going to do it for this video. If you want to see more fun builds, please consider liking and subscribing. If you haven't voted on my latest reaction poll yet, get those votes in quick. That will be my next video. If you have some project suggestions, please drop those in the comment section below, and I will see you on the next one.